basically, I'm just going to do a little sort of background on the greenhouse and the greenhouse project. I know a number of the people who are on here right now are familiar with some of this, and so we're just going to go through really quick. And what we're looking for, we'll probably, I'm thinking, get some more people calling in as we're going through this, is basically just a record of people's ideas and opinions about what we are trying to do, what they would like to see up at the greenhouse, the kind of food that we would be growing, and what we're going to be doing going forward. So just to give anyone a little bit of the background, the greenhouse in Reservoir Park was a building that was operational by the city up until about 1997. It was used primarily, it's my understanding, to grow botanicals for use in the actual parks by the city. And after 1997, when it was no longer in use, hold on one second. This is essentially an idea as to what the outlay looked like. There was a work shed back behind the actual greenhouse building itself. And there are a number of large planter gardens. You can see up where it says slope, they were about 28 feet by 6 feet. The greenhouse itself is 73 feet by 21, and the little office head house area is 14 feet by 24. So the site hasn't been in use for a long time. There have been a couple of efforts from different organizations to try to start working there again. Here's some images from that. A group called Angazi, led by Rafika Mohammed, which is one of the members of our EAC, had tried a couple of separate times. She had gardening classes, that permaculture classes, I believe it took place on site. And back in 2018, there was a greenhouse working group that was put together by the coalition of a number of different community organizations, volunteers, working groups, such as the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, which you see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen here. And also, there was some work done by the city. So the Department of Public Works had removed some stumps and some of the foundations from the old raised garden beds, which is the photo you see in the bottom left. Currently, a lot of the work that we have been doing, we're trying to restore the site to use, but not put a burden on the city. So a lot of this has been work to try to find different opportunities, grant funding. So we have received a Witt Family Foundation grant to complete the landscape design, as well as a grant from the Rotary Club of Harrisburg, which you can see in the bottom left, to get ADA accessible garden beds. We received a $25,000 grant from Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and also recently a second grant from the Witt Family Foundation. The photo on the bottom right was when we had heard about that, to try to create a series of gardening classes and informational sessions, workshops over the next several months. So there have been a lot of plans and designs that have been created by Angazi in the past. That information was turned over to Ed Black and Associates, who is currently working on sort of the plans and designs for the site. And there are a lot of different ideas, a lot of different opinions that we've heard about what we want to do with this site going forward. And we wanted to try to have an opportunity to have a forum to get information from the public and to try to get input from people about what they would like to see going forward. So that is essentially what we're looking at and why we're doing this call. So I'm going to try to open up and ask, there should be the ability to indicate, to raise your hand, and we can have you unmuted so that you can give information about anything you might want to point out or talk about. So I know we have a couple of people on. Oh, it looks like Daniel Bowers is here too. So I guess the first thing would be, I would just ask, well, Therese, I see you unmuted, so I didn't know if you wanted to start off.
I'm listening. I was just seeing, is there any new visitors out there? Because basically, you know, you said you hit all the points where we were going forward with.
Yeah, I know, and that's one of the things that I was just well, I mean, I said that, so yeah, I mean, I know that
we know what we want.
Yeah, well, exactly, but I guess, you know, in without more people here now, I basically am just trying to get a record. So whatever ideas people have, what they want to see. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about renovation of the brownstone building and ideas for the greenhouse going forward. Some of the things that Rafika has talked about as far as water catchment systems, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's all I was just asking of it.
Oh yeah. Ms. Rafika, was there anything else you wanted to add? Did anybody give you any ideas of things that people are looking to do? Maybe. He just said about the brownstone. The brownstone does have a kitchen also, so that, you know, if we don't have the resources to do a kitchen or something like that, I don't know if we were looking to do anything like that at the greenhouse, but we have all that resource right there, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump for future projects, or there's a kitchen needed for certain things as they revamp that area.
The brownstone, when Ngazi did his plans, the brownstone was included as far as you know, doing little workshops, because we held a lot of our permaculture classes there. A lot of the feedback that I'm getting is coming on Ngazi Let's Get Dirty's page, which I did not see a link on the city's page to help capture some of that information and data. So there's a lot of information that has came across that feed. Plus, you know, just a lot of folks gave us information when we was doing the piece with the mayor. So, you know, I mean, I think the information is always going to be continuous and coming. I just want people to understand that this is done in different phases. Everybody hears greenhouse, greenhouse, greenhouse. The greenhouse, and this is just my opinion, that would be considered to me as phase 2, because there's a lot that needs to be done with that. So I really want to put that out there. Phase 1 is doing the landscaping piece. Once Mr. Black gives us the finished plans, those are where some of our costs are going to be, to help and you know, install more of the beds, you know, fencing around the beds, you know, getting seeds, planting, just getting the area in order. That's my main goal and focus right now, along with water catchment systems. There's several people that came last week. I mean, I know what their capabilities are, what they have done in the past and doing now in the future as far as agriculture and control environment systems. So I just want, you know, everybody to know that this is going to be done in stages. I know the greenhouse piece is there, but also I want to share too, the greenhouse is not, if some people I know want to make it a historic piece. A couple people say they didn't see anything in there to make it historic, like no paintings, no different type of fixtures. We can build the same type of greenhouse today. So, you know, as we move forward, as we continue on looking at and renovating the greenhouse building itself, it's been stressed several times, and I'm going to keep stressing it again, that the Black community really deserves a state-of-the-art greenhouse. And that's one of the things that I will be pushing for. I am going to be meeting with Paul on Tuesday, just a brief conversation. What his time will be when he can sit down and meet with us and come up with some type of plan far as water catchment. That's my main goal right now, to get water caught up in there and to get those garden beds installed and up and growing.
Okay. I see we have gotten a few more people on. So either, I guess I would say, Karen, Basir, or Danielle. Did any of you have any ideas, input that you wanted to mention? I know that you've been on for a moment and just been listening to a few of the things we've been saying, but yeah.
You know, for me, a lot of it is just making sure that we have a good, like, you know, and I talked to Rafik about this, a good training and engagement programs so that we can get more people kind of upskilled utilizing that space, especially from the communities. I think it's a really good opportunity to create a strong underlying network of growers. So however we can do that, that's what I'm really looking forward to, making sure we have like a systemized way of like, building capacity, executing the courses. And I know, this guy goes to the core of what I really want to work with Rafika on. So any ways that we can use this location to facilitate that sort of training and development, I think would be really good.
Hi, this is Karen. I just jumped on, but I'd like to not be redundant, but echo some of what Rafika said in regards to that community deserving something state of the art, that kind of real investment. Now, I attended the demonstration on the 2nd, and I heard the gentleman speak about the greenhouse and how much money was put into it. I also heard that to restore the greenhouse would cost more than building a new state-of-the-art. So I have to echo what Rafika is saying in regards to where the real history lies in that structure. That would warrant us spending a lot more money on a structure that's old when we could get something state of the art. And that's my 2 cents as a community person.
No, your cents is more than 2 cents.
Karen, please tell us what type of food you would like to see grown up there, because I think you did give some feedback online, but we also can capture it here as well.
I think that the greenhouse and the greenhouse area has the capacity to support the community in growing fresh fruits, fresh vegetables that we may not be able to access from the food deserts that exist around us. I know because of, an invitation by Donnell and Rafika, we were able to engage in packing boxes of seedlings to distribute out to the community. And I know that we now have more growers and more people interested in growing food. I mean, with the greenhouse and the area around it, I think we could cultivate food all year round. My other 2 cents.
Well, I do know, and just so people are aware, there is a list of some things that people said that they would like to grow. My own personal experiences of what we have grown up there and what did well was corn, squash, beans. I think we did those just to see if what would grow and what types of foods would grow. But also on the list on Ngazi Let's Get Dirty's Facebook page, there is onions, leeks, all types of herbs. And the list goes on and on, pretty much what I would kind of figure what people in that community would definitely want to consume. Of course, our collard greens and kales, but what we want to introduce to people, yes, we can grow kale, but there's so many types of kale, and these are the types of things that the community is not aware of, exactly. And yes, I want to go back and just answer Bashir's question real quick, that the whole site up there, when Ngazi planned this is called an agricultural institution. So it's supposed to, and it is going to be, I don't want to use the word supposed to and try. The goal is to be an educational institution. Yes, it will grow food, but you can always come up there and learn something. There'll be some type of learning or educational activity going on. And I'm looking at other organizations that are doing or have done and are way ahead of us in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I know there's other places across the country, down south, Boston, whatever, but I am really focusing on what's happening local and micro local, and mimic those things there. Uh, Pittsburgh is doing an awesome job. Their greenhouses are situated almost in a community like the one we have here, and I mean, they're feeding hundreds, if not thousands, of people in their area, and I really like their model. So yeah, it's an educational site, and it'll be designed that way, and we'll always learn how to do something when we come up in there.
Rafika, can I piggyback off of that as well? As
Yes.
we look at, we're sitting in a pandemic right now. People need to know how to keep themselves safe or to mitigate what we're up against as a community. So when you talk about it being an institute, it also and to be an educational facility, we really need to know how to eat to
Mhm.
keep ourselves alive.
Exactly.
This is not the spring, the summer. I'm saying now.
Mhm.
We're in the midst of a pandemic. What are the things that we should be eating? What are the things that we should be doing that are connected to agriculture, connected to growing? I know just being up there in a space is a calming effect.
Mhm.
We're going through a lot as a community and we need other outlets. So I look at this institute as one of those within a community that can educate a community, not talk at them, but talk with them.
Okay, and I couldn't agree with you more on that. Yeah, it seems like even though when you're there, you don't realize you're dead smack into a residential community. That's why I call it the little forgotten area, because people did forget about that area. Nobody was really interested in that little spot till I started playing up there, and now everybody is really interested, which I'm glad. But it should be a calming effect. For me, when I'm stressed out, I go right to the garden. I go right to the soil. Um, when we have done things up there before, people worked in small groups. I'd be laughing because we was already doing our social distancing and working in small groups even before the pandemic. What we do want to educate our community more about, we're talking about what can we do now? How can we
Yes,
start taking care of ourselves now?
yes,
People can walk to that site, like even where you live.
yeah,
If you want to have a nice walk, you can walk from where you are, which is a couple blocks from the site. And now, if there was food up there, you would want to bring something, be able to carry your harvest back home. But yeah, that's exercise. You walk to the site. It's crazy because you're really up there getting fresh air. We're
absolutely.
elevated a little bit, and it is peace and quiet that's there. The neighbor that lives directly next door to the park, I've been knowing him for a long time. He was just ecstatic to know that there it is really coming to fruition. He was just and he's going to look out for it for us. There's some neighbors across the street that already told me, like, yo, I'm going to be watching, making sure that nobody or anything messes with what we're doing. So we're already getting that kind of community input as well. For
The
for
community
me,
excitement was good too, Rafika, regardless of whether how many people made time for this call this evening.
right.
In going through the community and handing out flyers and putting those door knockers on and
Mhm.
getting an opportunity to really talk to people about the greenhouse who are within 3 to 4 blocks of it, who
Yep.
didn't know that
Mhm.
it existed, who have no real history of it,
Mhm.
but live in this community. People seemed excited about the idea of growing food within their community. And I'm talking about young and old.
Oh yes. young, old, black, white, and Latina. Because by me walking through my old neighborhood, I used to live right across the street from there, and just to see, it changing a little bit, not much, but a lot of people are excited that something is being done. And when we talk about also as far as growing food, I've been working with Sharice a little bit since last week. She got her motivated. Her and her family want to grow food and stuff in her yard, and you know, we want to eat better. We want
He's
to
out here
talk
doing it
about
right now, Miss Rafika.
we want to talk about our heirloom vegetables and eating more color. And I've even talked to her about planting black kale at her house. And she's like, "Ooh, I'm interested in that." Not just for, of course, eating good, but how it looks. And, it's just all kinds of little things that people haven't thought about. Now they're relooking at their land. They're thinking about, how they can improve their health a little bit differently. So we will be growing a nutrient-rich food, nutrient-dense foods up there, which will give us all kind of the minerals and nutrients that we need to, like you said, Karen, to take care of ourselves through this pandemic. This pandemic is going to be with us for a while.
Right.
Karen and I serve on a weekly call with the states, and we really get a chance to hear all the nooks and crannies of what's going on with COVID-19, and it's not good. So we have to make sure that we keep our immune systems built up. We have to make sure that we're exercising and doing physical activity. We have to make sure to keep ourselves safe and our families safe. So, there's a lot that's going into this and this whole thing when we're talking about urban agriculture.
And you spoke on heirlooms, and one of the tomato plants that I received this summer produced the most beautiful heirloom tomatoes. I was so proud. It's sitting on my table, getting ready to be devoured now.
I know that's right. And you know what?
So-
And I am honored with y'all that, you, Monica, there's a couple folks that was in that group that we handed boxes out. That y'all took the initiative to grow food. When I hear people that, even when I walked around the community and handed out things, there was particularly one child that told me that she was in my
That's my neighbor.
Okay,
She's
yeah,
my
she
neighbor.
had me in tears. Like she says, I'm growing food. You had us growing food in the little bags, and now we got a full-fledged garden. So yes, Karen, in your block, I counted about what, almost 6 families is growing
Yeah.
garden.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I
Yes.
would have never known that if I hadn't really taken time and walked out. I'd be thinking sometime, yeah, people, but I'm honored that people are even taking those steps. So we want to replicate that even more.
Well, now people are more open to alternatives since they've had time to sit in the soup.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's prime time.
I was just gonna say, Rafika and Karen, I was wanting to see. I see that we have one of our city council members on, and I was just curious if Danielle, if you had any questions, any comments so far.
Good evening, everyone. No, thank you. I don't have any questions or comments, really. I'm just here to listen and see what I can learn in the process as well. But thank you very much for hosting this.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you for being on the call.
Oh, you're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
And thank you also for allowing us to go up there and play. We couldn't do none of this if council members didn't allow it as well.
Sure.
Okay. Looks like somebody was asking, where is this located? That's actually a good question. So the actual greenhouse building itself, the driveway to lead up to it is off of Whitehall Street, right on the south side of Reservoir Park. If you were to try and put a GPS address in to get to it, the closest address would be, I think, 2017 Whitehall Street, which is technically across the street, but that would get you to where you need to be.
If I'm not mistaken, Chris, I think the information I have on the Ngazi Let's Get Dirty site for the White House is 1820 Whitehall Street. And the best way to kind of let people know is that they have to come up on the right side of the park when they're at the mouth of the park.
Yeah.
You're at a stop sign and you're right there at I think it was 19th and 20th or 18th and 20th, and the greenhouse is to the left. Even though people that came there last week, they still drove right past us because they're not used to making that left going up into the park. So it's a little tricky, but we did have signs out there in the past that showed you where the greenhouse was, and maybe we can put those back out there again.
Okay. And just gonna check how large is the ground.
They made that a
Well,
one-way, Ms. Rafika, people really forgot also because they made it a one-way. They turned it back into a one-way.
That's true. That's true.
I just wanted to mention, so like, there was also a question of how large are the ground. So there's a fenced-in area that the garden plots, the parking lot, and the greenhouse itself are in, and the fenced-in area is approximately half an acre, according to the calculations that I looked at recently. The actual building itself, the greenhouse itself, I believe, is about 1,533 square feet. If that answers the question.
A lot of space to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was just wanting to check. I noticed that there is a few people that we haven't heard anything, questions from or comments. Looks like DJ, Deborah, and Nicole Matero. I mean, if you guys don't have any questions or anything, that's fine. I just wanted to check to make sure that anyone who called in, if there's anything that you wanted to ask or any comments that you wanted to make, that we are getting that. Okay, well, so they're asking, are there any specific kinds of plants that can be planted, anything that can't be? So I guess I would say there's not necessarily anything I would imagine that we're specifically ruling out at this point. One of the things that we're asking people about is what I mean. Mostly everyone that we've heard from so far is interested in growing food. You know, the greenhouse was used in the past, I believe, a lot, not only to grow food, but also to grow botanicals for the parks. And that, I don't know if I would say that we can't grow that, but definitely the focus is about growing food for the communities.
Well, when we talk about botanicals, and I just want to clarify some stuff. Everything, there's certain things, and that's just everywhere. There's certain things that'll grow up there and there's certain things that won't, and some things will be experimental. Corn grew well up there. I mean, it was amazing. And then there's some things that just won't. I just been noticing that just growing food throughout the city, there's certain areas that certain foods will do well, and then there's certain areas that certain foods won't. So that's just something that we have to consider. One of the reasons why is that area has a lot of pine trees, which makes the soil very acid. So you have some fruits and vegetables that do not like acidy soil. So that's one of the things we have to take into consideration. And I know some of the plans that Ngazi Let's Get Dirty did when we were doing our permaculture classes, I have to look at my notes. There is a list of particular fruits and vegetables that we can grow in acidic soil. So blueberries and raspberries and certain brambles of that nature that we can grow up there. And again, looking at certain fruits and vegetables that like that particular type of soil. So I just want to share with everybody, everything that we might want to grow up there may not grow up there. We have to do certain soil amendments to get things growing. Now, once we put in a new structure, and I'm really pushing for a controlled environment structure, which that'll be a whole nother something that we can talk about. Then we can look at growing our tropical foods, because I know a couple of people had asked about lemons and bananas and things. I said, no, we don't grow those things in Pennsylvania, but in a controlled environment, they can be grown. I'm also an aquaponics farmer. I did work in a controlled environment, so we did grow coca and bananas and lemons and limes, and they did produce and they was ready for consumption. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. This is still all an experiment. And from what I've understand working with certain farmers, every growing season is an experiment. So we just can't say our peppers are going to do good every year, because that by the weather. So I just wanted to share that out there. And one more thing I just want to share with the people, I'm kind of on the flow now. We eat a lot more fruit than we eat vegetables. Meaning that peppers, eggplants, cucumbers, anything that flowers is considered a fruit. So I do know those items did grow very well up there. Our vegetables are mostly your cauliflowers, your broccoli, your beets, your carrots. Those types, I'm just giving you some examples. Those are more what you call your vegetable line, but most of the time in our diets, without us really being aware of it, we are eating and consuming more fruits than we kind of like do vegetables. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's kind of true with this new age now. Everybody on this what do you call it? Eating less carbs and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just so everyone, I'm not sure if everyone saw it. Nicole had asked what our volunteer needs are, and I was just saying that as right now, generally anyone who's wanting to be involved in volunteering, we're just asking to participate in the greenhouse working group calls that we do once a month. The next one's October 14th at 6 p.m. But that coming up, I would imagine, if not sooner, then probably, and Rafika, you can mention if this, when we're looking at doing spring plantings, we probably would have more use for volunteers up at the site.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on doing a series of a couple classes now. Also, you know, like we can still grow all year round. Like I just planted some lettuce seed and the lettuce seed is coming up. So lettuce, your broccolis and cauliflowers, those types of vegetables, they like the cold weather. Even if we get a little snow, they'll still thrive. So we can still grow some things year round. One thing that I was very disappointed in up in the greenhouse area, all that topsoil that has been built over the decades has gone because a lot of the stuff got taken away, plowed over, dug out. So as we're moving forward, I'm going to be a stickler on protecting our soil. If our soil is no good, the food is not going to grow. So one thing that we have to do is rebuild our soil again. That's why I'm focusing on the hugelkultur beds. If anyone doesn't know what the hugelkultur beds are, I would encourage y'all to do some research and look some things up. Also looking at keyhole garden beds, Those are considered composting beds where we take our trash and our food waste, create garden beds, and all you do is continuously putting your trash and your food waste in those beds. They automatically fertilize themselves and they grow magnificent food. And the reason why I'm choosing those types of beds, because we don't have a water source. Even though we're talking about capturing water, we can still grow food in case we have a drought or can't capture water. We won't be, our gardens won't die. Those are ancient techniques that have been, when I'm saying ancient, that means indigenous people have done them, used them. They're still in practices today, and they work. So those were the two types of garden beds that I will really be featuring and focusing on. One of the workshops that I am putting together is with Will. Will was there yesterday. He's a Black farmer that's over in Mechanicsburg. He grows mushrooms along with food, but he's basically a mushroom farmer. So I want him to do a class on mushrooms. And you're probably wondering, well, why mushrooms? Well, a lot of people eat them. A lot of people that are leaning more towards becoming a vegan or a vegetarian, they use a lot of mushrooms as their meat base and meat source. And also mushrooms are used to clean soil, getting heavy metals, toxicity and things out of the soil, so to help clean up our earth. So mushrooms do a lot. So Will is an expert in that now. He's one of my permaculture students. I'm very proud of him. I'm seeing him grow over the years. And then also how we can solarize that land so we can put the garden beds on top. I would like to do a workshop on getting cardboard, taking that out of the waste stream, wood chips. We got all these trees that's being taken down, ground up, and how you can solarize the property. And you can do this at home, which is now a natural weed barrier. So then we don't have to burden the city to come up there and continuously cutting grass, taking things down. That will basically take care of itself. So we'll be just slowly putting in systems. We still have to work on our covert plan for up in the park before we can have these activities happening. So I do want to do that next week with you, Chris, and Sharice. Let's get that up and going. And we do have to have people to sign off on waivers. We did that when Ngazi was doing that before. We need to go back to that again. So there will be opportunity for volunteer activity and also the classes that we're putting together. Some will be free and some will be at a low cost, but all this is coming within the next couple weeks.
Chris, this is Karen. Wanted to know what kind of grant funding are you looking at?
We've been looking at a lot of different opportunities. I mean, some of the grants that we've received were smaller, like 5,000, 25,000, that sort of thing. But we've also looked at, so the U.S. Department of Agriculture does do some urban farming grants. They're not necessarily consistent in terms of coming out at the exact same time every year, but they did post one the past 2 years. And we actually, I actually did write the grant application to try to submit it this past summer, but we weren't able to do that because of having to meet, like with the federal grant applications, there's more requirements for any sort of organization like the city to meet, and it takes a longer period of time and involves more departments, the law bureau, things like that. For the direct grants we've been getting, it's a little bit more simple and more, we do have basically a grant proposal written to even say USDA, and that would have been for $300,000. So should those same grant programs be posted again this coming year, we'll have most of the groundwork done to be able to try to go after things like that. And those are the kind of opportunities that we're looking into going forward as far as grant funding, as well as, you know, the ones we've already gotten, like the Witt Family Foundation, the Food Bank, Rotary Club. And also, and aside from that, a lot of the individuals who work with those organizations, like Andy Rebuck, who's a part of the working group and a part of Rotary Club, there have been a lot of ideas about fundraising efforts going forward. So not just be able to get grant funding, but also donations and sponsorships from private individuals, organizations, that kind of thing. One of the ideas that we had is to try to get the plans and designs from Ed Black and Associates when they're complete, which should be relatively soon. I actually met with them this week to try to go over a couple of things, just to get some details about where they were with the project and when we could expect something. And we're hoping to be able to use some of the conceptual drawings and things like that as sort of marketing materials to be able to continue to put the word out and hopefully get some more interest. We have had a couple of organizations contact the city after the Facebook Live that was completed on October 2nd with the mayor, with interest in possibly getting involved and providing some funding for this project.
That's great. I know that a few months ago, I had passed on to Rafika that the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation has some rolling grants, which would be right up the alley at this point because you don't have those kind of time constraints. But one in particular was the future of food. I think that it's worth pursuing. I know that the grants that you mentioned are pretty much local. And I know in going after government grants, their process is really rigorous. So I understand what may have happened, but looking at health and agriculture together, and how the future of food can affect a community, I think it's a grant worth going after.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree.
Do you
And
still
we can
have
definitely
the?
look into.
Oh, I was going to ask you. Go ahead. I was going to say, did you still have the link? Because I think I did share that with you. If not, I can look at it and pull it back up and send it to you.
Yeah, I think I do have it, but if you can resend it, because then I don't have to search through my email for it.
Sure, I'll do that.
Also, I'll just mention, speaking about fundraising efforts and the grant funding and things like that, one of the other things that we've sort of discussed briefly, but I just wanted to get some input on, is obviously, again, we don't want the operation of the site to become any sort of financial liability, for the city to end. So we figured that in terms of continual operation going forward, it may be a good idea to try to think about sort of a couple of continual annual events that we might be able to put on. This is probably going to be more thinking in the future. Obviously, we're fairly restricted because of COVID right now and what we can do. But the possibility of having a couple of annual events that we do every year to try, which would be a sort of a fundraiser for the greenhouse. And so there's been a couple of ideas thrown back and forth, but if anyone, so one that was done previously was a fish fry, which took place actually, I believe, at the greenhouse site. And so there was a couple of ideas like that, or possibly an event in the park. And so if anyone had any thoughts or opinions on that, that would be welcome.
Chris, is it too early to start working on a sustainability plan for the park?
Well, we're kind of in the middle of starting working on a sustainability plan for the city right now.
I'm sorry, I said the park. I meant the greenhouse. I'm sorry. I said the park. I really meant the greenhouse.
Well, I mean, we've sort of touched on a number of the different aspects that would go into that. It's not necessarily too early to start trying to put something together. I would say that, and Rafika had sort of touched on this earlier. Right now, we're primarily focused on getting the grounds back to where they can be used and have plantings there, and then looking at things like the actual greenhouse building itself and the brownstone, like that second phase. But obviously, the aspects that we can put together, things that we can get on paper and agree on, that would go towards like long-term use and sustainability for the site, we can definitely start doing that now. It's just some of the more, when we're talking about more changes and renovations to the physical buildings and the grounds around there, that's going to be need to be a process that's going to involve more the facilities and parks director, the public works director, and then obviously the mayor and city council, because we're talking about making physical changes to city facilities. But in terms of anything, short of that, we can definitely start making plans like that now.
And I ask that because, as you know, as you go to through the application process with these grants, they are looking to see how you look to sustain after the money is gone.
Yeah.
So they are looking for a sustainability plan.
Karen, with the mind map that there's a picture of it on, I think Chris showed a picture, but we have a mind map that we can share again. Pretty much we consider that as the sustainability plan. There was a timeline on that when certain periods should have been completed. I think we were supposed to finish up in 17 if we'd have had the funding and resources like we do now. So the only thing that we would really need to do, and so far it seems like, the city and all three administrations, all the mayors, all the council members, there were several council members. Remember day one when I first came to them and asked them about utilizing the greenhouse, and the goal was always to teach the community how to grow food. The greenhouse has always been on the radar as far as some type of renovation. So we're not really changing any city structures. We're just improving the city structures. So that I want to kind of like safely say that that's pretty much a go. It's just getting the dollars and resources and the labor and design to make it happen as the greenhouse structure. But again, what Dave Black is putting in place, once those plans come back to us, there's dollars that needs to be spent just for the landscaping ideas that we have incorporated to him, how things need to look. So again, that's why I said we want to take this in different phases, because and I've gotten some, I'm gonna say guesstimates on a new state of art greenhouse that probably we're talking about 3,000 square feet, would probably be about 125 to $150,000. So that's kind of like around the ballpark figure. Now, I'm not sure as far as labor, as far as the city's cost would be with that, et cetera. So, that would definitely, when it's done, it will push it up a little bit. But as far as I'm talking about the greenhouse structure itself, the insides to make it work and function, depending on what type we want to do. I was talking about aquaponics up there because I read about it for years before I even really got involved. But I know that's a little bit more intensive when we're talking about aquaponics farming. And then also, again, glass is not the way to go. I was really upset when those dollars got spent. Glass is not the way to go. That's not what the new farming is about right now. So we really need to, the greenhouse is something that everybody just needs to calm down. We're going to take time on, and this is not a rush.
And just to clarify one thing, and this isn't in any way disagreeing with what she said, as far as frequently the panels that are used, I believe in newer structures are polybicarbonate, or polycarbonate. It's the actually it's the same material that are in my glasses. They're not actually glass, and so that's yeah. Okay, if nobody else has any questions at the moment, I guess one of the things I'd maybe ask, if you're able to, for real quick, Rafika, is that, as I mentioned, we did recently apply with the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and Ngazi applied and to receive the $25,000 grant to do a 6-week series of classes to try and workshops to try to go over basically showing people how to create gardens in their own backyard and how they can do different gardening techniques and things like that. If you could speak to that for a minute, Rafika, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, well, one of the ones, like I mentioned earlier, we're definitely going to do the mushroom. We definitely will do what we call solarization, and we're definitely going to do what we call our composting beds. We're also going to teach people how they can do raised beds out of Rubbermaid totes and old lawn chairs, even though we will provide you new ones. My goal for you is to look around your house and see what you have, and we can make it work. You can grow food in anything. The goal also is to pull a lot of waste out of the city's waste stream. We want to do what we call become a zero waste city, that, we're doing a lot more with a lot less. So we produce a lot of trash, and then unfortunately, because we are in a pandemic, some of our trash needs to be separated and properly disposed. So there's a lot of things that we can share with the community and show them how to do certain things with. But my goal right now is to take your eggshells and take those eggshells and show you how to put them into the ground and grow some food with them. My goal is to show you how to take your newspaper and, like I said, your cardboard and certain things that are biodegradable, what you can use and what you can't use. So then that way you won't have to be paying a trash bill. People don't realize the more that they recycle, recycling is free, and you can reduce some of your household costs. We also want to talk about how we can catch water, even though we're talking about putting an extensive water system in there. We want to also talk about water at home and how we could save water at home. The more water you catch at home, Capital Region Waters gives you a reduction on your water bill. So when you're talking about living a sustainable life, and you can do that within an urban environment, it also can reduce your cost and your living costs. And right now, since we are in a pandemic and things are very tight, we need to know how to save every dollar and dime that we can. And learning how to do the things that we're talking about here can help you reduce those costs. I've been doing this kind of stuff for years. I've been growing my own food for over 40 years. I have a lot of children. As I was having babies at home and being wife and doing things, that's how I got started. That's how I learned. I read everything I could find. I was just a little bit ahead of myself when we was doing things with Ngazi and doing permaculture classes, because a lot of people didn't know what we were talking about, what we were doing. I remember several times I went to several council meetings just to educate our council members on what we are doing and how we can improve our soils, how we can grow food here, how we can get the community involved. So I've been doing this stuff. This is how I live, but I've also been doing this type of work for for me, it's almost like secondhand or second nature. Coffee grinds get rid of smells. They also help improve our soils. So there's little things like that that I will definitely be creating classes for. There's people that know more than I ever know, and they're my teachers. I learned from them. Like I said, Paul is my teacher. Paul is an amazing young man. He's very brilliant. This young man has been building greenhouses around the world. He's my aquaponics teacher. He taught me how to do and also helped me get certified to be an aquaponics farmer in the state of Pennsylvania. So also my goal is to grow and to educate and certify. And we need more Black farmers in our state. We don't have that many. We can count them on one hand, almost two, and that's a fact. So I have, there's no agenda here. These are goals, and I just see needs and just coming up with solutions. And that's one of the things that will be taught in anyone that takes our classes. The problem is the solution. So I see a lot of problems, but we also have a lot of solutions.
Okay, one thing I wanted to ask people's opinions about for anyone who's on here is obviously the past couple of weeks. Oh, well, I'm sorry, there was a question. Oh, Karen just was saying that she had to jump off. So one of the things was obviously the past couple of weeks have been about trying to get information out to the community and to get responses and input. So this obviously that's going to need to be a continual process going forward. And so if anyone has any ideas about methods, routes to do that, what the kinds of like organizations that we should be going to events, as far as trying to put the word out and to get participation from the community, not only for the greenhouse, but I mean, there's a number of initiatives that we're going to have going on in the city over the next 6 months to a year. And we really do need input and feedback from the community, because we're going to need people to, if not directly participate, at least to buy into what we're trying to do. And so we want to make sure that we're doing things that people in the city agree with when it comes to trying to make changes to put in a climate action plan and to try to increase resilience against climate change effects and all, those kinds of efforts. So if anybody has any ideas about places we should be going, people we should be talking to, then it would be, now would be a good time to hear that.
We definitely should be talking to the schools
Yeah.
and everything at this particular time. Again, it's a pandemic. It's going to be around for a while. So we definitely want to get the youth, the parents, and everybody to know how to cook and grow food and everything at this healthy food at this particular time. I would love to see the corner stores with some healthier foods and maybe some of the vegetables and things from here, right in our own garden and everything. So I'm thinking schools, daycares, those are little projects that the schools could be doing with the youth and everything. And like I said a while ago, we used to have a horticulture classes and stuff through the school district.
Yeah, Chris, from a YPOC standpoint, we're trying to engage with this project and kind of others. So, starting this Friday, we're working with the comprehensive plan, which I know like this is built into that structure. but we're really trying to find ways to get that normal, whether it be local Zooms where people can talk about projects like this and pick something that they're engaged with and then pull in. And I love the idea of, of finding ways to support schools. So perhaps we can utilize our Adopt a Classroom program to get the message out. So that's a great idea as well. So yeah, we have a couple of initiatives going in that manner.
And we also can use some volunteer help on our EAC, which meets every Thursday of the month from 6 to 8. Which now we're doing virtual meetings with that, but we have a lot of projects, which the Greenhouse Project is part of the EAC, but we're talking about our tree initiatives. We have a couple of things that we could definitely use some volunteer help with. So, there's opportunities when somebody say, how can they get involved and volunteer? I would definitely say, be a part of our EAC and what we're doing. And like Basira mentioned about young professionals of color, what they're doing with the comprehensive plan. There's a lot of things that people can get involved with. They just need to get involved.
And I will also mention, I typed the answer, but in case anyone didn't see it. So we do currently have a page on the city's website for the greenhouse. It's just harrisburgpa.gov/greenhouse, the backslash where this call-in information came from. And we're going to keep that. So information about events that are going on at the greenhouse. So like if we get the classes put together, a schedule for that and how people can get involved. We'll be able to post that information there going forward. I'm not going to change the link, although I might actually change, we might change the name of the page to just the sustainability page for the city. Going forward, where we'd have information about the greenhouse, EAC meetings, all that stuff.
Chris, someone had mentioned about how would they learn about classes, etc. I would just say just be observant to the pages that the information that we're sending out. The greenhouse working group is growing, and I can't no longer do this on an individual basis like I was when it was small. So I'm just going to share with people that you really just need to pay attention. Chris, can we get a link to Ngazi Let's Get Dirty's Facebook page along with the city? I didn't see that on there because, again, a lot of people will respond to that. From that page, it's been shared about 112 times since we've been doing this right here. So we're getting more response from that page than we are from our EAC page. So all of those need to be linked together. So as people respond, we can kind of keep up and disseminate information out that way. So I would just encourage people just to really, pay attention to the sites. Y'all have a lot of our contact information. Please reach out to us. We will probably put a list of the classes out there. I'm a little skeptical of doing that right now, but because of COVID, we just can't say, oh, we're here for the next couple of weeks because things are changing. Unfortunately, our numbers are coming back up. Our community spread's coming back up. So, we have to pay attention to that as well. So it's just, I would just say this, if everybody could just be vigilant, we'll be definitely putting the information out there. Word of mouth, and Chris, I'm just gonna say this, and the other folks will note as well, is gonna be our best marketing source. Just share the information, talk to people about it, talk to other people about what they might wanna see happen up in that area, what type of foods they would like to grow. I will share with everyone on the call that I'm a little skeptical of just taking all kinds and any kinds of seeds. I'm going to be very, very strict on what we put in the ground up there because we don't know where the seeds are coming from. So it's very important that when we do bring in anything to put into the ground as what we call inputs, we want to make sure that they are natural, they're organic as possible, and there's no chemical or any harm. We already have invasive plants up in the park now. We don't want to introduce any more invasives in the park at all. So I just wanted to share that because I know people are like, well, I got these seeds and I got these plants, and I will definitely check them out very, very carefully before we introduce them into the soil.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have kind of touched on most of the things that, most of the ideas and topics in general that we've kind of gone over. Was there, I mean, are there any specific topics, items that anybody else had any questions about or wanted any information on?
Or Pacific workshops. I'm open for more ideas.
One I can mention, and I might, I could possibly do this myself, or maybe in conjunction with you, Rafika, would be to do one showing people about creating their own backyard composters, because there's a lot of different ways, obviously, as you know, that you can do that with a lot of different types of materials. You can do it with cinder blocks, you can do it with old pallets, you can do it with chicken wire. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And so that's one that I was considering trying to put together, because especially, as you mentioned, now, like, assuming that we're able to do it in a way that we feel comfortable with related to COVID, that we're still not going to be looking at being able to plant necessarily a lot of different things until spring. And fall is a good time to be able to try to start sort of collecting material for composting.
Oh, I loved it. And I like the idea when you said pallets, because I was going to talk to you about putting some up there that will stay. But yes, let's show people how we can get all these pallets that we see around here. You know, I've been making furniture with pallets, you know, turning them into, useful things. So yes, let's show people how we can turn pallets and make them into compost piles up there. We can put several up there right now because there's so much material that we can use, and that can definitely be a workshop. I'm looking at kind of like when we do 2 at a time, then that way people can learn a lot of information at one time. But yeah, I do like that, and we can do that very soon. Sharice told me that the little onion that I planted last week is starting to grow.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's good. And my little system is working, even though it's the one little onion up there. But at least we can even, build off on that and add to the hugelkultur bed. So yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Well, again, I guess I would just reiterate again, that we've gone over a number of different topics, but there may be some things that we didn't touch on or that people had questions about. So is there anything in particular that anyone wanted to add or anything else they wanted to ask about? Okay. Well, I mean, it's a little earlier than the original time that we had planned to go to, but we haven't had any other individuals jump on for at least about half an hour now. So I guess I would say that at this point we could probably wrap things up. Again, unless like a last call, and if anyone had anything else they wanted to add. I will just mention that the next greenhouse working group call, where we sort of have more of an open discussion with everyone who's there, is going to be on October 14th at 6 p.m. And as Rafika had indicated, the EAC meetings are at 6 p.m. on the first Thursday of every month. Through the end of the year. We'll most likely be continuing that schedule into next year. That's something that's decided at the last meeting, usually in December. And right now, the city is currently working on doing a greenhouse gas inventory of the city of Harrisburg the administration is working on doing a greenhouse gas inventory for the city of Harrisburg along with Harrisburg University. And that is going to be something that we're probably going to be, if not in the fall, definitely in the spring. We'll be talking about that process more publicly as we need to create the climate action plan, because that's another thing, as I mentioned before, that's going to require input and feedback from the community. So yeah,
Chris, say a little bit about the EJ Symposium we're also working on. I know this might be some new information for people, but all of this has to deal with our environment. And when we're talking about these things, we're talking about Harrisburg, we're talking our micro local environment, what impacts us. We were on a call with the students from HU and Chris and some of the people from DEP and the state Environmental Justice Advisory Board that I also serve on. We're really bringing a lot of resources here. How we can also, well, basically we're in a bad way. I'm just gonna put it like that. Harrisburg is glowing red. We're in trouble and we need to clean up our act. That's the only way that I can put it. So we talk about our trees and our trash and things of that nature, how we can come up with solutions, how we can improve, how this is also impacting our health. Because things are the way they are. I mean, that's why we're so sick. That's why, and we're not talking about old people, we're talking about young people with the asthma and the heart attacks and, you know, a lot of health elements because of the fact of our environment, our local environment. So this is very exciting. Chris, I'm glad that you're really, you know, taking a lead on with HU. We have some of our students that are really being, a part of putting together the action plan and also our symposium. Harrisburg is going to be a hub, one of the hubs across the state. I'm very excited. My goal is just to bring the resources here to the city. I'm learning as well, but to see all this develop is just very, very exciting to me. And not only that, we're opening up new career paths for our youth. We're talking about going to school and getting certified or getting a degree in sustainable activities, looking at our watersheds. I mean, all kinds of ways that we can really take care of our environment, but we're also looking at how children of color can participate in this as well. Yes, I dip and dab in this a little bit, but I don't see a lot of Black people involved in what's going on with our environment across the state. So I'm very, very excited about this. But yes, Chris, tell them about the EJ Symposium and some other things that's going to happen next year.
Okay, well, I think you covered a lot of it right there, but I'll just add, that Harrisburg is going to be, we're currently working on planning on working with DEP to host an environmental justice symposium in the spring, and we're going to be looking at how a lot of the activities that we're engaged in now, such as the climate action plan, will sort of feed into that. One thing I can tell you is that both the Department of Environmental Protection at the state level, as well as the EPA at the federal level, have a number of tools to try to measure things like environmental justice issues and specific impacts for certain types of pollution, the health-related impacts that has on a local level. And so there's a couple of tools that we've been looking at recently and talking to DEP and EPA about trying to measure, to take a look at, and essentially the entire city of Harrisburg is basically classified as an environmental justice community, so to speak. And there are a number of different impacts that you can look at on the EJ Screen tool from EPA. It looks at things like particulate pollution, ozone, cancer rates, and how different things that are in place in the city or the surrounding areas correlate to those and how people are impacted by them. And so those are the kinds of things that we're taking a look at right now and that we're going to be considering as we continue to do the greenhouse gas inventory and as we're looking at the climate action plan and trying to figure out, make decisions about what the best course of action would be to try to alleviate certain types of impacts, communities to focus on first, or to provide the most attention to, and basically just how we can best create a plan for the city which is equitable and will alleviate a lot of the impacts that the people living here have to deal with.
And also some of the impacts as we put systems in place will also help bring more revenue back to the city. is one thing. And what's so interesting that food is all in this. We do talk about growing food. We talk about agriculture. We talk about and planting more trees to deal with the air, the particulate. I'm learning as well too with the particulates. Harrisburg is still considered like an industrial city. I do live on 7th Street, so I live right across the street from an industrial park, which impacts people that live up here in Harrisburg. So this is something that we're also going to get ready. We're getting prepared to do a nice presentation in front of City Council. The one senior that's at HU that's really helping to spearhead some of this and doing our EJ screen maps. I'm very excited about that. We're asking her to do the presentation to council. This is all some new information for folks, so we're kind of like learning, but we're really working really hard to clean up Harrisburg's environment, and this is something I think that everybody should be proud of. So when we're talking about how can we participate, that's a big undertaking that we're taking, and we need everybody's participation. And starting with that is basically picking up trash, sweeping up, don't put it in our waste our waste streams, don't put it down in the sewers, little things like that. And believe it or not, is why we're in the situation that we're in. So we can just start in those little small things. It will also help improve our environment and also help cleaning our air and cleaning our water. So it might be a big thing that we're looking at, but we're also want people to take those little small things that they can do individually themselves to make a huge impact if we all just do it together.
Okay. Well, I think that with that, we'll probably call it a night for now. And obviously, if anyone wants to continue on or has any more questions or wants to keep being involved, the next Greenhouse group call again is October 14th at 6 p.m. So I just want to thank everybody again for participating with this, because we definitely need to try to get the kind of input and feedback that we were able to get a little bit of here tonight as we continue to move forward with these things.